This is IBornStudio Podcast Show 26. Today we interview an author who wrote a book on his family ancestral lines called A Reason to Be. This book is an epic tale beginning in the 15th century Scotland and the flowing through time to modern day New York. Now let us welcome your long-awaited guest, Norman.
Tell us a little bit about you and that book.
Okay, my name is Norman McCombs, and I was born in Buffalo, New York, educated as an engineer, scientist. I had a very fortunate situation that I had a high school sweetheart, and we were together for over 50 years, and she got Alzheimer's, and so the last part of my career up until a few years ago was spent taking care of her. I had intended to write at some point in my life. I had written as a young man, and I decided I was going to retire into doing that, but Alzheimer's came along, and my reason to be was just to take care of Grace, my wife, for many years until I lost her. And I went into depression, and I wasn't able to write. So I started traveling, and I wound up in the middle of the desert out in Henderson, Nevada. I started to write. The first part of the book, A Reason to Be, is about my survival, me coming out of the depression that I was in. I still am somewhat, but I'm pretty much out of it now. And along the way, I decided that I would intersperse some information about my relatives, so I found I had some interesting ones back there, so I got into genealogy as well. I went through a lot of time just thinking about what love was, and I decided to make part of the book about my feelings about the word love. So it's about my survival of the Alzheimer's ordeal and about my genealogy and about what I found out about love during the course of events of my life with Grace, and then later through the Alzheimer's ordeal. So that's how I came to write the book. And A Reason to Be is a natural title for it, because for quite a long time my only reason to be was to care for Grace, and when I lost her, I sort of lost my reason for existence, which we all need, and writing a book was therapeutic. I had to look within myself, and I had help from several friends, one in particular that brought me back to life, so to speak. I can no longer live in Buffalo, New York. There's so many memories there, but I live in the middle of the Mojave Desert outside of Vegas in a place called Henderson. I never thought I'd wind up in the desert, but I like it. However, yesterday was 111 degrees. That's a little hard to take.
Wow.
I'm adapting to it. Yeah. So in Buffalo, we had 3 months of snow. Out here we have 3 months of 100-degree weather. I prefer this, actually, although I miss the greenery of the Northeast. Where are you located, Khalid?
New York City, sir.
Oh, you are in New York? Okay.
Yes.
I still have a home, an apartment in Terrytown, north of the city, that I haven't given up yet. Right now, I consider my home to be in Henderson, Nevada.
Do you rent it?
No, we own it. The character known as Susie in the book is actually Suki, and our life partners at this point.
Understood.
And so we live together in Henderson, Nevada, in a condo we own. Yeah. Right now with COVID, it's a very humbling experience. On purpose, we live not too far from the airport because we both like to travel. So right now, that doesn't do us any good at all. So I started writing another book, keeping myself busy. I've become quite deeply involved with the University of Nevada. That keeps me busy too. You have?
Yeah, that's interesting because, Las Vegas, of course.
Yeah, Henderson, we're about 25 minutes from what people call the Strip.
I like the fact that you're so optimistic and you have a lot of energy. You see things bigger than the regular. You moved and you move with purpose. You know your next goal. I like your agenda. Plus, you have a lot of accolades, which we're going to talk about. Apart from a few, just about maybe 3 of my interviews, you are one of them, being one of the areas that I can go on all day speaking about things and what you do and how many different areas the topic can dive into. So let's try and close it in 15 minutes or less than 20. Now, with that said, I want you to tell us about the fact that your beginning, when you wrote that book, you said you had to go as far back as the 15th century Scotland, flowing through time to modern New York.
Yes.
Give us a little bit about this connection.
Okay. My father used to talk a lot about his Scottish heritage. He did not have any detail. So when I came upon some information on the net about the name McCombs, it was prior to my wife developing Alzheimer's, but I found some interesting people way back there. And it all started, a clan of Macintosh, which was in central Scotland. And the name McCombs came from the clan Macintosh. A clan is a family. The Scottish call a group of people that are related that live in the same community. It's controlled by what they call a laird of the clan. In the old days, the clan leader, the laird, was in charge of everything, and he owned all of the property of all of the other family members. Not only the property of, but he owned the children and the wives even of the. He could have whatever. He had whatever he wanted.
Was that so like modern day slavery?
Yeah, but it was all a family arrangement. So this happened in Ballytolm in Scotland. A distant relative of mine, Murray McCombs from Toronto, Canada, he had done a lot of research. That's how I got started on the genealogy. In any event, the oldest son of the Macintosh clan was a fellow. His first name was Thomas, and the Laird Macintosh decided to take Thomas's family, his wife included, and all his land away from him because he was getting too powerful. So Thomas fought back, and he started his own clan. So in the prologue, it's descriptive of the battle that the oldest son Thomas had with the Laird Macintosh. He winds up killing the Laird Macintosh, and he goes off and starts the Thomas clan, and that's where in Gaelic my name McCombs comes from. McComb, Gaelic for the Mac in Irish and Scottish just means son of. Yeah, so the original was Thomas, and then it developed into Mac Thomas, son of Thomas, and in Gaelic it sounds McComb, and again that's how my name developed from that clan. That was the 15th century, mid 1400s, and traced it through my relatives that some of them migrated to Northern Ireland in the Cromwellian era, and they eventually moved to pre-revolutionary United States, pre-revolutionary North America, and then turned to my relatives, fought on the side of the revolutionaries, others fought on the side of the British, so that made for an interesting conflict. One of my relatives, Alexander McCombs, was a good friend of Alexander Hamilton. He founded the New York Stock Exchange. If you live in New York, if you go to 39 Broadway, you'll see a plaque on a building that says the McCombs Mansion. It's right in the shadow of the New York Stock Exchange. And Alexander Hamilton is just buried down the street in the First Lutheran Church. I visited there, and it was quite poignant to see that. I wrote the book, New York City Perspective. I lived in that area for some time, even though I was born in Buffalo. But I decided to frame it in New York City. The book is, from an emotional point of view, 100% nonfiction. Emotionally, it's me. It's a biography emotionally. Dialogue you have to invent. So I say, the dialogue is fiction. How do I know what was said exactly? So I consider that fiction. As far as the details in the book are concerned, the actual events, it's about 75% nonfiction, 25% fiction. So when people ask me whether it's autobiographical or not, I say that's my answer. Okay.
That book, to be honest with you, Norman, is a good book. As a writer myself, I see that book becoming a movie where you will have to give more details on the epic moments from the beginning of the episode within that.
But it's interesting that you say that about a movie. I've had many people say that to me, that it sounds like a movie, and I don't know how to go about doing that. First-time author.
It is quite clear that you can also promote it for producers to see it, and then they will acknowledge whether it is a possibility.
I have a publicist. He said that he has contacts. So along the way, who knows? I'd like for that to happen. And I have an audio version of the book coming out in a few weeks. I have listened to that, and it's quite fascinating to hear someone read my words. It was exciting to hear that. And that's coming out in the end of September. I want to make something clear to your listeners, and that all of the proceeds of this book go to the Alzheimer's Association. They need all the help they can get. It's an insidious, horrible disease. Think about it or recall what happened during that period of time, but to see someone gradually disappear in front of your eyes, a loved one from high school, horrible. It took me a long time to come out of it. And the character Susie in the book is actually my partner now. Her name is Suki. And I was late calling you because she's a mature woman, but she's into the dancing, ballroom dancing, very good at it. So we had been to one of her classes, and on the way coming back, there was a lot of traffic. So that's why I was a little late calling you. I apologize for that.
That's not a problem, Norman. You're in good hands.
What is your background? How do I pronounce your name?
Calyx, C-A-L-Y-X, Calyx.
What is is your background? Where do you come from originally?
I'm from the West Indies. Have you ever traveled there?
No, not at all. No.
Oh, okay. London, St.
What language do you speak?
English predominantly.
I sensed a little Hindi.
There is another language which spoken in the home by our parents, which is called broken French. We cannot even write it. That far less.
Oh, can't you? Oh my goodness. Grace and I we lived in Switzerland on and off for quite a while. And there they have a form of German that they learn in school. They have something they call Schweizerdeutsch that they speak amongst themselves. And it's the same as you. They really can't write it. Yeah, they write German, but they speak, in German you'd say Schweizerdeutsch. They call it Schweizerdeutsch. So it's a similar thing in Switzerland.
It doesn't trouble me to speak both languages. If you can speak,
I understand it perfectly. So.
Yeah, I can understand it perfectly. But the thing is, I don't foresee myself taking it serious because it's not a language I learn in school. Going forward, what are the resources or mentor that help you along your journey?
Well, you mean relative to me writing the book or in general?
Yes, writing the book.
I developed an interest in it because I came upon information about my genealogy. When I was a young boy, I wrote a lot of fiction. I loved to write short stories. Then I got into science and engineering, and I didn't do that anymore. I just wrote technical things. But I had planned when I retired to write. When Grace developed Alzheimer's, that changed my whole life. I lost her, God bless her. My friend Mark, like a son to me. I do not have children. He encouraged me to write. Go back to what I talked about doing. He is in the book. His name is Mark Collier, but he's actually Mark Collier in the book. And he's the one that lifted the valve for me and got me out of myself and got me traveling and writing. Beyond that, I use Ancestors.com. I use certain of my relatives that I came upon in Scotland and Ireland, fill in the blank. There's a very strong emotional content in this book, colleagues. When I say it's 100% nonfiction emotionally, what you read is me. Now others have encouraged me to, especially UNLV, have asked me to write a memoir about how to ideate, how to creative, how I managed to do what I did in life. So I've started that recently. But as far as helping me is concerned, my travel, I met a lady who stabilized my life. She didn't really do the research like Susie did in the book, but she stabilized my life to the point where I could write. So she's really been the stable influence in my life that allowed me to do it. I shed a lot of tears while I was writing it, because you have to remember some things that are painful. But I'm glad I was able to finish it. The publisher has made things very easy for me, and I've got a good publicist. Those are things that I'm not familiar with. In the end, I'm an engineer. I'm a scientist.
So skilled, artistic, I must say, you're able to accomplish such big goals. But before we go there, in addition to Susie, Mark, and that separate lady, was any time in your life you had to barriers, get more traces of your ancestry?
I went to Scotland and Ireland to get a feel for a sense of it. I went to where the clan began. I went to where some of my ancestors lived in Northern Ireland. So I got a sense of it, a feel for my homeland, so to speak. I did a 23andMe ancestry DNA check. I was hoping that I'd have something really exotic in my DNA, but maybe from the West Indies. I was just hoping there was something different about me, but it turns out I'm 99.7% European. Period.
Yeah.
Nothing else. I'm not very exotic.
Have you ever heard of atrial fibrillation? AFib. It is the most common heart rhythm disorder worldwide, affecting 1 out of 4 people over age 40 at some point in life. This single heart health condition impacts up to 6 million people in the US and is a major cause of stroke, heart failure, hospitalization, and reduced quality of life. Despite these staggering numbers, there is still a lack of publicly available, easy to understand, and reliable information about AFib, diagnosis, and treatment. As a listener of this show, during a time of heightened health concerns around us, I want you to know your heart health and overall health matters. It is why I am delighted to share with you the list of Restart Your Heart, the playbook of thriving with AFib. Veteran heart rhythm specialist, cardiac electrophysiologist Dr. Asin Desai introduces timely, heartfelt playbook to inspire people to meet this health challenge head-on. This book uniquely combines a holistic approach, cutting-edge science, and engaging patient story overcoming the condition. Grab a copy of Restart Your Heart anywhere books are sold and get a copy for someone whose heart health you care care about. Visit draseemdesire.com to learn more. DRASEEMDESAI.com.
Suki is Korean. She was born in Korea by an American father and married there, and then she left Korea when she was 7 years old.
Very young.
So she has a lot of Asian friends, and her mother lives here. We see her fairly frequently. I've learned to eat food that's spicy food that I didn't really eat before.
It makes your heart tender. You know that?
Yeah, I'm getting so I look forward to it a little bit now, though. I didn't think I ever would, but now when I have curry, I really like chicken curry. A lot of good Thai restaurants here.
Good.
And I used to take like a 1 or 2, look at the scale of 10 with heat. Now I take a 5, so I'm really tolerate much more heat. I miss it if I don't have enough. Do you eat a lot of spice in the West Indies, Kaylee?
Yes, I also cook, and I am very much into spice. Without spice, your heart is not tender and loving.
Yeah, you sound like Suki. I'll think something is quite spicy, and she hardly tastes it.
Yeah, but not too spicy. I like to taste the food.
Yeah, if it's too hot. We were in a restaurant here. Bobby Flay at a restaurant here. He made some Southwestern chicken, and the waiter brought it to the table and told me it was hot. And I thought he meant that the plate was hot.
No.
But what he meant was that there were chili peppers laying on the plate. And to me, I didn't recognize them as they looked like dark green beans. And I picked one up, ate half of it. I couldn't breathe. It burned my mouth. I couldn't even chew the chicken after that. It was like second-degree burn. That's the hottest I've ever. I don't know how people can eat that.
Right.
It actually doesn't allow you to taste anything. I know there are people like that, and God bless them if they like it. That's it. More. I like jalapeno peppers now, which I never thought I would eat before. But part of my career, I owned a restaurant. I went to a lot of cooking schools, so I cook a lot. I'm a chef.
We have something in common. We both cook.
You cook? I had a popular restaurant business, but Grace got sick and all fell apart. I wasn't able to start cooking again until the pandemic came, really, because I always made me feel sad when I cooked, because I remember cooking for Grace all the time. And in the restaurant, that was a part of I went to a lot of cooking schools in Europe. It was a significant part of my life quite a while. I like to cook.
We are moving on time.
Okay.
Let us go into the accomplishment that you had in the past, and one of it is to have over 200 patents worldwide. So why is it so many? Give us 2 of the patents that you have.
Okay, the most significant one has to do with separation of air. Maybe your audience or yourself know of something called an oxygen concentrator. It's an appliance where you draw room air in, which is 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, and you separate out the nitrogen and you produce 90 to 95% oxygen, which you use therapeutically for people with respiratory disease. So it's called oxygen concentrator. It pretty much took the place of cylinder oxygen, and I did that for many, many years. And I developed respiratory exercises. I developed systems for fish farming, for metal cutting, demand devices for breathing. Many of the things I've done have to do with the respiratory system.
That's good enough, because I know 200 is a span, long span.
Yeah, there's a lot of them there. Yeah. Different things I was exposed to over the years.
Before I jump to
the oxygen concentrators, I was able to reduce the size of oxygen concentrators to the point where they could be used on board aircraft. And we finally got the FAA to approve them for aircraft for a lot of people to travel that needed oxygen. And that's how I happened to wind up in the White House with Obama. It was for achievements in general, but the reason for it was my contribution to producing oxygen for people in need with respiratory issues. I did that back in 1977, so all my life.
Right. So what year did you receive the Medal of Honor from Obama?
2013. They were 2 years behind, so they call it the 2011 medal, but I didn't receive it until 2013. Okay. They fell behind. It was a couple of years after the year that I was actually told that I was going to get the award. Total surprise to me, and I don't belong in the company I'm in. I think for that medal, I'm still in awe. I've gotten other awards, but that obviously, I was born in a shack inside of Buffalo, New York, and I wound up in a very small building to the most famous building in the world. I'm still in awe of that. I don't feel deserving of it, but I'm very thankful for it.
You deserve it. You work hard for that. We can go on, and as I said, it is one of the opportunities to do a day of talking. That's not the interview we are having today.
Sure.
What advice would you give someone who wants to further a career similar to yours?
Well, relative to Alzheimer's, I would not admit that Grace had Alzheimer's. As a scientist, I felt like there had to be a way to cure it, and I didn't ask for help. And as a result of not asking for help, I almost died myself. So my advice to people listening out who are dealing with loved ones who are suffering from Alzheimer's is to get as much help as they possibly can from their family and friends and the Alzheimer's Association. You can't do it alone. There still isn't a cure. I don't see anything in sight. People in the Alzheimer's Association are working, so many people working on it. They can use all the financial support they can get. So again, my advice to Alzheimer's would be get help. Ask for help. Don't try to do it by yourself. You can wind up as bad as the patient, the person you're caring for. As far as writing is concerned, I always tell people, and I'm sure I was told this someplace, but the scariest thing you can have in front of you is a clean sheet of paper. But the clean sheet of paper is also the most exciting thing you can have in front of you. So just start writing or drawing or whatever, inventing. Just start whatever you have in your mind. Start doing it, and if you develop a passion for it, you'll be successful in completing it. That's my philosophy at this point in life. I'm doing some mentoring out here, and it's very difficult for me to put the right words together to get those thoughts across to young people. I guess I don't relate that well to at this point, but I'm trying, particularly my memoirs.
It is a great answer. We still have 2 more to go. I think you said it all when you mentioned the path for Alzheimer's disease and how you would like the audience to relate to it. Very well said. I thank you for that. We have 2 more to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
What is the one thing you wish you knew before beginning your career?
A very young boy, designing things, understanding how things work. I sort of thought in 3 dimensions, and I doubted myself. I remember as a very young boy, like 2 or 3 years old, seeing other people reading, and I said to myself, I wonder if I can ever read. It's like a phenomenal thing. Will I be able to go to school? Will I be able to get out of 8th grade? So everything I started, I always questioned myself whether I was able to complete. But the fact that I questioned myself drove me to complete it, right? So I think I could have had more pleasure in life if I just had more confidence in my ability. I did have angels along the way that helped me and encouraged me. And without those special people, I may have quit. In the end, things worked out well. Obviously, the end of my life with Grace was those 6 to 7 years were horrible. I didn't anticipate that. Her mother had Alzheimer's. I didn't anticipate that, and I wasn't ready for it. I think we should live our life as though it is the last day on earth, that when we look at a tree, we should appreciate it. We look at a flower, we should smell it, and live life to its fullest. And I wish I had learned that at an earlier time in life, because I was always looking ahead rather than in the moment and worried about the future. My advice to people would be just that, to take one day at a time, have confidence in their ability, take advantage of those people that are around you that want to help you and encourage you. Try not to be around negative thinking people.
Well said. I agree 100% with you. Let's go to the final question before we get your information. Do you think that you, Norman, was born for a reason in this world?
My reason to be? I think we all ask that question, and I still ask that question. I was a gifted child. I've always asked questions that sometimes were beyond answering, and at one point in time, I came to terms with the fact there are some things that we will just never understand. We're not meant to. What does the word infinity mean? Start thinking about the end of space, or where's the end of the universe? There are things you just don't. Maybe we're not meant to know. I believe in something way beyond me, myself, or any of us. We try to come up with these formulaic ideas about life, what it means, and what our meaning is. Chuki and I were just talking about this the other day. I don't believe that we're a biological coincidence, like many scientists do. I don't believe that. I believe that we are meant to go on, and we're meant to help other human beings. I know from my experience in life that the most pleasure that I get out of anything is when I'm helping somebody else. And I think, so I guess that's my reason, to try and understand others and do the best I can to help them. I'm starting on a crusade that you don't have time to talk about. I have written an editorial that my agent's going to be using social media to spread. It's a very neutral message about just being kind to each other regardless of our race. I'm all in favor rid of the word race. If you think about, you ask a person, what does race mean? When you research it, you find out it was an invented word back in the Middle Ages, to distinguish us. When we describe each other by race, we automatically stereotype the person. Automatically. We're stigmatized by that word race. I'm all for eliminating the word race. We're the human race. If we ask for, if we need blood, do we ask who it came from? As long as it's healthy blood that's not infected. And we don't ask where the blood came from. We copulate. We're able to have children together, so our DNA matches. Human beings, we're human beings. I don't think we need the word race, so I'm sort of starting out at this late stage in my life trying to put that in the right words so that maybe it'll help people. I gave a commencement speech at the University of Buffalo where I talk about that. If people are interested in knowing a little bit more about me, they can go to YouTube just under Norman McCombs, and there's things about me, and there's a promo for my book there as well.
They can find on greenleafbooksgroup.com, and which is GRENLEAFTBOOKGROUP.com. greenleafbook.com. So tell us other ways we can get you. You mentioned YouTube. Repeat it for us.
Well, there's one. I have NormanMcCombs.com, which is called the splash page in the publishing world, and it talks about me. It gives my background. You can read part of the book on that. Get an e-cop. You can read it electronically off of NormanMcCombs.com, and you can order the book if you're interested in it. Just go to YouTube under Norman McCombs. You'll see a few things about me. One of them having to do with the award at the White House and a couple other things relative to my activities at the University of Buffalo, and plus a promo video about the book. I'm very proud of my publicist, a guy named Scott Laurent, put that together, and I'm
that was smart.
very pleased with it. So that's my contacts.
Norman, I know for a fact you are very energetic. I know you will have a beautiful life. Your life has just begun. I hope you're ready for the rest, and good luck with the book.
Well, I appreciate it. Very nice talking to you. I think we both could talk for a few hours.
We would have. I told you it could go all day.
But I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and it was interesting to speak to you.
Yeah.
And again, I thank you very much.
You're welcome. I will keep in touch with your publicist, and I will let them know when it is aired. I'll also send them a link so that they have access to my YouTube channel where it is posted, and probably Facebook. So you'll be keeping in touch, but there are many more before you, so wait a while, but I'll not let you all down. I will promote it as much as I can for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Calix. Very nice talking to you.
You're welcome, and stay safe.
Thanks for listening to IBornStudio podcast show with your host, Calix. If you like our show, give us a review. We want to thank our sponsor, Free Conference Call Service, who made it possible for these interviews. You can contact us via IBornStudio.org or support us on anchor.fm/IBornStudio. Thank you for all your comments.